They say everyone has a story. Mine starts in Valenmur, a decent enough city in the Bradian Kingdom. Not exactly the center of the world, but not a backwater village either. We had the College of Light's melody, you see, and that brought a certain something to the place. A touch of class, maybe, or at least that's what old Barty Higginbottom used to say. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I never knew my parents. I'm an Aasimar, which made me a bit of an oddity, even in the orphanage. The orphanage. That's where I grew up, a ward of the local church of Aros. It wasn't a bad place, all things considered. We were poor, sure, but the caretakers, bless their souls, did their best. They taught us to read and write, which was more than a lot of kids got in those days. Still, no one expected much from orphans. A life of honest work, maybe, if you were lucky. Apprenticeship to a tradesman, service in a noble's house, that sort of thing. Me? I dreamt of more. I devoured stories, tales of valor, of heroes and monsters, of daring deeds in faraway lands. I'd lose myself in those stories, imagining myself as the protagonist, a mighty warrior, sword in hand, righting wrongs and protecting the innocent. I was particularly fond of tales of the heroes from before the great upheaval, the apocalypse that reshaped the world. My favorite hero from that time period was Valshum, the great necromancer, who managed to keep the peace between the ancient kingdoms of Elanestra and Numenora. I even had a wooden sword I'd whittled, and I'd spend hours practicing in the orphanage's dusty yard, much to the amusement of the other kids. But if there was one thing that I had in as much abundance as bravery, it was charm. I had a knack for it, a way with words, and an instinct for reading people. You have to learn those things growing up in an orphanage. You learn to make friends, to smooth over ruffled feathers, to get what you need with a smile and a wink. It wasn't always easy, mind you, but it taught me how to turn on the charm. And when charm failed, well, I was a good storyteller. The other kids loved my stories. I'd gather them around and I'd spin yarns of daring adventurers, of mythical beasts, of lost treasures and hidden kingdoms. I wasn't just reciting what I'd read, mind you. I'd embellish, improvise, add my own little flourishes. I had a strong voice for a kid, and I knew how to use it, how to build suspense, how to make them laugh, how to make them gasp in awe. Then there was Soliana, my best friend, my confidant. She was a half-elf, quiet and observant, with eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of the forest. She was an artist, always sketching in her worn notebook. Landscapes, mostly, but sometimes she'd draw portraits of the other kids, or even of me, if I could sit still long enough, which was rare. I loved those portraits. Soliana. We were an unlikely pair, the boisterous storyteller and the quiet artist. But we understood each other. We shared a bond, a silent understanding that went beyond words. We were both different, she with her pointed ears, and I with my golden eyes and my faintly glowing skin. We both dreamed of escaping the confines of the orphanage, of making our own way in the world. I to my heroic adventures, she to her maps and uncharted territories. She'd often sketch as I told my stories, her charcoal pencil flying across the page, capturing the images I painted with my words. She saw the hero I wanted to be, even when I doubted myself, and I, in turn, encouraged her dreams of becoming a cartographer, of mapping the world. We'd spend hours poring over old, tattered maps, tracing the faded lines with our fingers, imagining the journeys we'd take, the places we'd see. I remember one time, we were maybe 10, and we snuck into the church library. It was forbidden, of course, but we were curious. Soliana was fascinated by a faded map of the old world before the great upheaval. She traced the lines of ancient kingdoms, now lost to time, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Imagine," she whispered, "all the places that are gone, all the stories lost." "We'll find new ones," I said, grinning. "We'll make our own stories." Of course, it wasn't always stories. There was also Barty Higginbottom, head of the Valenmore Merchants Guild, a gnome with a belly as round as a well-fed badger and a laugh that could shake the rafters. He was a patron of the orphanage, one of the many who helped keep the Church of Aros running and us fed. He'd visit every now and then, always with a twinkle in his eye and a new story to tell, usually about his own supposed exploits as a young merchant, which I suspected were greatly exaggerated. Then came the day that changed everything. I was 11, and Barty was visiting the orphanage. I was in the common room, holding court, as usual, surrounded by a gaggle of younger kids. I was telling them the story of Aros, how he abandoned the court of the gods. I was really getting into it, mimicking the voices, acting out the scenes. I didn't notice Barty at first, standing in the doorway listening, but when I finished, to a chorus of cheers and applause from the other kids, I saw him. He was beaming, his eyes twinkling brighter than ever. "Well now, that was a performance," he said, his voice booming through the room. "You've got a gift, lad. A true gift." And that's how it started. Barty took a special interest in me after that. He'd talk to me whenever he visited, asking me about my stories, about my dreams. He saw something in me, something more than just a charming orphan with a knack for storytelling. He saw potential. He told me about the College of Light's Melody, about their scholarship program for underprivileged kids. "You should apply, Donosi," he said, his eyes serious for once. "You have a talent. Don't let it go to waste." The thought was both exciting and terrifying. The college was a big deal, even if it was small. People came from all over the Bradian kingdom to study there. It was known for producing skilled bards, some of whom even found positions in the courts of nobles. The idea of leaving the orphanage, of actually having a future, it was almost too much to hope for. Soliana, of course, encouraged me. "You have to try, Donosi," she said, her eyes shining with that quiet intensity she had. "This is your chance." So, I did. I focused on my studies, on my storytelling. I practiced my singing, which, if I'm being honest, was always one of my strong suits. I had a voice that could make people listen, that could make them feel. I poured all my hopes, all my dreams, into that application. The day the acceptance letter arrived, I thought my heart would burst. I remember running to find Soliana, the letter clutched in my hand, a stupid grin plastered across my face. She was in the garden, sketching, as usual. "I got in!" I shouted, waving the letter in the air. "I got into the college." She smiled, a rare, full smile that lit up her face. "I knew you would," she said. Leaving the orphanage was bittersweet. I was excited for the future, for the opportunities that lay ahead, but I was also sad to leave Soliana, the only family I'd ever really known. We promised to write, to visit, though we both knew that life had a way of changing things, of pulling people apart. The College of Light's Melody was everything I hoped for, and more. I learned about music theory, about poetry, about the history of the world. I honed my storytelling skills, learned to play the lute, even picked up a bit of swordplay, though I was far better with a song than a blade. My natural charm and my ability to read people made me a natural at diplomacy and performance, two of the core skills taught at the college. My instructors, many of them followers of Aros, emphasized the importance of community, of using our talents to inspire and uplift others. It resonated with me, with the values I'd learned in the orphanage, with the teachings of Aros that I'd absorbed growing up. But the college wasn't without its challenges. I was still an orphan after all, and some of the other students, especially those from wealthy families, looked down on me. I had to work twice as hard to prove myself, to show them that I belonged. And then there was the fear, the constant nagging fear that I wasn't good enough, that I'd fail, that I'd let everyone down, especially Barty, who had believed in me from the start. But through it all, I persevered. I made friends. I learned. I grew. I discovered that I had a talent not just for telling stories, but for creating them, for weaving words and music together to create something magical. The teachings of Aros, the god of music and wanderlust, resonated deeply within me. His tenets, embrace your unique voice, seek out new experiences, support the disenfranchised, bring light to the darkness, became my guiding principles. The fact that I was an Aasimar, touched by the celestial, only deepened my connection to the god of music. And now, here I stand, a graduate of the College of Light's Melody, lute strapped to my back, a song in my heart, and the open road before me. I've said my goodbyes to Barty, who beamed with pride and gave me a hefty purse of coins. "For emergencies," he'd said with a wink. I've promised to write to Soliana, to tell her about all the places I visit, the people I meet. Maybe she'll even join me someday, mapping the world as I fill it with music and stories. I know the road ahead won't be easy. There will be challenges, setbacks, maybe even heartbreak. But I'm ready. I have my music, my stories, and the memories of a quiet, artistic half-elf girl who taught me the meaning of friendship. I have the lessons I learned from a jovial gnome merchant who taught me the value of believing in yourself. And I have the fire of Aros in my heart, urging me on. My name is Donosi, and this is just the beginning of my story. Where it will lead, I don't yet know, but I'm ready to face it, with a song in my heart and a smile on my face, ready to charm the world, one story at a time. Maybe I'll even become the hero I always dreamed of being, righting wrongs and protecting the innocent, just like Valshum did, so long ago. Maybe I won't. But one thing's for sure, it's going to be one hell of a story, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds.